One of the reasons for doing this project is that I don't believe we see nearly enough contemporary art from other southern zones. Obviously talking geographically here, and that's Latin America and Africa. Australia obviously is in a strange situation. It's effectively a Western developed first world country. So we're in the south, but we're culturally largely still northern in our way of thinking. The term south shouldn't be seen as just a geographical term. We encounter this term otherness. At its simplest, I think otherness alludes to, really you could say it's the view of minorities or subcultures within the cultural mainstream. So Australia is overwhelmingly Anglo-Celtic European, and people who are not of that ethnic background can be seen as other. But it doesn't just apply to ethnicity, it can apply to sexuality, to religion, to really any subculture or group that is not part of the mainstream. So threaded through the work of all these artists, you will find a sense of their own perception or knowledge of themselves as somehow different or somehow not conforming to the mainstream. This sense of otherness or alterity, I think, gives rise to some of the narratives and perspectives that these artists are expressing. Betsabe Romero is one of Mexico's most revered artists. She is hugely in demand all over the world, and we're very lucky to not just have her in this exhibition, but to have had her come out to Hazelhurst to work with a team to realize a very ambitious project which is called The Geography of Objects. Betsabe Romero is referencing this dialogue between North and South, and of course Mexico is a Northern Hemisphere country which finds itself relationally to the south of the United States.
The spears have these points that I've done in Mexico, and at the end of the spears, they are going up vertical all over, but we have to cross here like this with the spears, but they will be very high.
Each spear carries the motif from a different indigenous nation or culture throughout the global south. It's a potent metaphor for North-South relations, but one that contains within it all the complexity of those relations, and not just the vertical metaphor, but the horizontal metaphor as well. Diego Ramirez, who is a young Melbourne artist. He grew up most of his early life in Mexico. For South, Ramirez has explored his fascination with a creature called the axolotl. The axolotl has actually become very big in Japan. The axolotl is kind of imbued with cuteness somehow, and he explores the way this strange creature from his homeland has kind of gone global viral. Welcome to Diego's Axolotl Land. Coming to Newell Harry, who is a young early to mid-career artist working in Sydney. He has a very complex background. His mother is a mixed-race South African. His father is a French Mauritian. He grew up in Sydney. His works in this show use Bislama, which is a pidgin language used in Vanuatu, where he's done a lot of work. They use Afrikaans, a colonial language of South Africa. His works use English. And what he does is deconstructs these words and places them into sort of new relationships with each other. This is his way of questioning what words actually mean and whether words do have meanings other than the subjective ones we actually grant to them. Joan Ross is an artist who has worked with many, many different materials, but in the work for South, she is particularly looking at the work of colonial painters such as Joseph Lycett, who was known as the convict painter, John Glover and other painters of the 19th century. The tensions between the great colonial works and her video interventions really throw up many, many questions about how we see painting and how we see history and how painting has been, in some cases, a false transmitter of history. Archie Moore, who is a Queensland-based artist. Archie is of Kamilaroi descent. He sees himself as an urban contemporary artist. Archie is a painter, but he uses paint in very unusual ways. For South, he's created an installation which he's called Depaint, and this is not painting as you would normally see it. He creates large sheets of paint, which his technique is to layer paint, layer upon layer, until it achieves an almost sculptural quality. And in his work, Depaint, Archie is looking at place, in this case his childhood home, and he is exploring his own memories of the house where he grew up, and his sense of displacement, living in the suburbs of Brisbane, but conscious of a far older and more ancient heritage. Maria Cardosa is a Sydney-based artist. She is a very, very distinguished artist. She grew up in Colombia but has been living in Australia for many, many years. Her work for South is called Emu Works. The emu, I think, has become a focus particularly because it's funny and unique to Australia. So this large, ungainly bird has been the focus of her work. She's worked with emu parts, mainly emu feathers, and created the most delicate and beautiful sculptural installation from these parts. Destiny Deacon and Virginia Fraser, they are celebrated artists. And the work we're showing for South is called Home Security. I saw this work, which is an evolving work, quite some years ago at the Havana Biennale. And this was in, I think, 2009. And I was amazed by the throng of Cubans around this work. Dolls inhabit this kind of space where they're watching television, they're witness. And in this work, they're watching on TV old documentary footage, which is of mission schools in the 1950s where many young Aboriginal children were taken to be educated, so removed from their families. These are the stolen generations. It's a bittersweet, rather whimsical installation that packs a devastating punch. And I think that's why young Cubans were so fascinated by it. Bridgeman is a Brisbane-based artist, very much an early career artist. He's only a few years out of art school, and he is of Australian and Papua New Guinean Highlands heritage. But he's also, in every sense, a global citizen of the world. He alludes to Australian sporting culture, to pop culture, to ethnographic representations. His work probes, explodes, dissects, and makes fun of many of these media themes that exist around us. But underneath it, there is a serious fist of political comment. Zanelli Maholi is a young South African artist. She is of Zulu heritage. She is an out-proud lesbian woman. She set out to photograph what has been called the invisible sisterhood of South Africa's lesbian community, not just in South Africa, but in the diaspora. And the strength of this work is actually in its simplicity. I think the message is, we are here, we exist, deal with it. Hassan and Hussein Essop, also South African, from Cape Town. The Essop brothers express another kind of otherness. They're black South Africans. They, if you like, are part of what is now the majority. But as Muslims, they're a minority. And you could say that as Muslim artists, they're a minority within a minority. They are themselves the subjects of all of their works. There's a playfulness at work. As twin brothers, they've always been competitive with each other, and so this competitiveness to outdo each other. However, if you want to burrow down, you will find deeper meanings, deeper questionings about religion, about contested histories, about contested territories. This is currently also on show in South Africa for the first time, so Hazelhurst audiences are seeing it pretty much simultaneously with its first showing in their home country. Michael Goldberg is also a questioner of colonial narratives, and for South, Michael has chosen to do a very ambitious project, which is a site-specific, we will call it an earthwork, a land work in the Hazelhurst Gardens, which is called Justice, Prudence, Temperance and Fortitude, which, for those who don't know, are a reference to the Italian writer, poet Dante. The 14-year-old designer of the Australian flag, he said that the 4 points of the Southern Cross should represent Dante's 4 virtues, and these were qualities that all Australians should live up to. So Michael has really explored and teased out these meanings. So once again, we have an artist presenting a multi-layered questioning of the very symbolism at the heart of the Australian flag. My favourite term for artists is to call them seers. It's a word that I guess has also got the meaning of people who predict the future, or people who see into, have insights greater than the average person in the street. And I think that the role of artists is to see things perhaps more deeply or ahead of the rest of us. And I think the work that we are seeing here in South is showing us different ways of looking at the world, looking at our own otherness, looking at the otherness of others, and perhaps helping us to understand that there are many different Souths on this world, on this planet. We are but one of them. And I hope that viewers will go away perhaps with questions in their minds about what they've seen, but certainly with an enhanced sense of the other Souths that may exist on this planet.